Are you playing games or are games playing you? Sounds like the Twilight Zone or something.
I want to talk about a paradigm shift in video games happening over the past number of years, in which the industry has evolved to a point where instead of you playing games, the games play you. First off, let me try a bit of a demonstration for this. Pick a number, any number at all. Once you have it, go
52.
ahead and multiply that number by 3. Feel free to pause the video at any point. Yes, there is math involved in this. When finished multiplying it by 3, I want you to add 6. Pretty simple, right?
156, 162. Okay.
And then I want you to divide this new number by 3
By a
again.
big one? Oh, come on. What did I even say? 54?
Just to be sure, I have all the steps on screen right now, and you should have, sequentially, picked a number, multiplied it by 3, added 6 to the answer that you got, then divided this new total by 3, with a final step of subtracting the original number that you chose from the beginning, whatever it was, leaving you with an ultimate.
So, the number is always going to be 2?
Answer, which is based on whatever you originally picked. The answer that you have is 2. You chose a number, whatever number.
It's always going to be 2. And?
Number you wanted, but I can predict your answer because your choice never mattered, and the outcome was always predetermined. Real quick, if anyone didn't get the number 2 as an answer here, you're wrong, not me. You made a mistake. This is what's called a magician's force, and it's a trick involving mathematics where the steps in order sequentially will always result in the number 2.
Okay.
Because you're adding 6, then dividing it by 3, where multiplication and division cancel each other out. Another example,
so what, is this just the illusion of choice?
Much more simplified example for anyone who didn't want to do all of that, is if I put 2 cards face down on a table and then ask you to choose one. If you choose left, I say, take the left card. And if you choose right, I then take the card on the right, saying, okay, you chose mine.
This is the classic thing.
Now take the card on the left. I did somewhat.
This is an old magician's trick. They do it with more cards than 2. But effectively, they're always... you say something and they do it, so you always get the same card because they do this exact thing. It's a pretty neat trick.
But give you a choice, technically speaking, but you didn't really choose anything that affected the outcome. The same thing is now true in modern multiplayer video games, where people can be playing a first-person shooter or a competitive sports game, therefore making a multitude of choices in the process of that. But those choices...
Bro's just pressing random buttons. Is this League of Legends? No, it can't be. Like, what is he doing? Backstrafing? My dude.
Choices don't matter, and the outcome is predetermined. That is my premise for today, and that is what I mean when I say games are playing you, not the other way around. Here's the part where I have to play a clip for context. I've talked about a lot of these things before in separate videos, but collectively analyzing them here requires a bit more depth, and this is...
Listen, I actually don't know if I want to watch this, because one of my absolute biggest fears in life is a predeterministic universe. I can't handle the idea that we don't even have free will. I am not okay with that.
Mark Rubin, executive game director and producer at Ubisoft, giving an explanation for why X-Defiant, a recent FPS title released by Ubisoft San Francisco, doesn't use skill-based matchmaking, or as he calls it, engagement-based matchmaking.
I heard about this. Isn't this false? Isn't skill-based matchmaking implemented after like rank 20 or whatever the hell that's supposed to be? Level 20? I'm not sure.
Okay, so skill-based matchmaking, also known as oftenly as SBMMM, basically where the game decides that you have a certain skill level after it kind of watches you play for a few matches, and then matches you up with people who are equivalent on your skill level. Now, in the olden days, it was pretty light and didn't really intrude too much into the game. It has become something that is more what they call actually engagement-based matchmaking now, where it sort of is like an AI that's monitoring your behavior and going, okay, this person's getting beaten too many times and we think they might quit, so we're going to make the game easier for them.
Yeah, effectively what I complain constantly about in Magic the Gathering Arena. Because it doesn't matter how much of a mouth breather you are, you need to win, otherwise you're deleting the game.
And then you'll get a game where you win, and then it'll bring you back to the playing against the same people you were playing before. And the thing with all that, besides the whole sort of morality of it, is that I think it creates a stale experience, right?
I'm not sure what kind of morality is even implied in this. I legitimately have no clue about the moral implications of a system like this. Huh.
Like, you keep playing against.
Are there any moral implications even in something like this? Huh. I can't think of any. Wow.
The same exact people, not the same exact people specifically, but the same exact type of player, you lose out on all the fun variety that I think a lot of the old school shooters had.
Straight off rip, that already proved my point kind of completely. This is the former executive producer at Infinity Ward for a decade, mind you, who's responsible for some of the best overall entries in the Call of Duty franchise, who now works at an executive level inside Ubisoft.
I don't like Call of Duty in general.
So he is absolutely qualified to speak on this and has intimate.
You know why I don't like Call of Duty? Because every single time you see a compilation of the greatest Call of Duty, anything, it's just a guy who runs and then he shoots a guy who doesn't even know he's there, and then he runs behind a corner, same thing, two more people, and he just shoots them from the side. And effectively what happens is someone just gets like 7 kills in a row, and the reality is 6 out of those 7 people never even looked in his direction while they got blasted by him. I hate that so much. There's literally no skill expression in that.
Knowledge of how it all works, but for anyone who came here expecting a lot more depth, I've got you covered. This is a research study conducted with internal data from Electronic Arts that incorporates roughly 37 million matches and 1.7 million unique players. The subject is EOMM, Engagement Optimized Matchmaking, which is an evolution of skill-based.
Isn't this like an old thing by now?
Matchmaking, exactly as Mark Rubin just outlined. In that paper, we can see, quote, EOMM provides a measurable and flexible matchmaking framework. It has well-defined quantitative objectives that can be monitored, evaluated, and improved. Within the EOMM framework, the core building components, skill model, churn model, and graph pairing model are uncoupled so that they can be tuned and replaced independently.
This is important because you need to understand the point of MMR is not actually making it so people have good matches. The point of MMR in all of these systems is churn. Churn is effectively players just quitting the game. I don't remember, was this Riot Games or EA who conducted the study that found that if you win too much, people still quit the game. If you win too much, it's just too easy. People don't find it appealing, and they abandon the game. But if they win not at all ever, same thing. But the funny part is, turns out the churn ratio is the lowest when people have around 50% win rate and below it. When people win too much, they will just abandon the game as quick as people who lose too much, which is kind of insane, honestly. I would have never just guessed something like that. Now, I would say, people who probably just win everything without any problems do abandon the game, but the fact that it is almost equivalent to the people who get stomped constantly was kind of crazy to me. And this is why they're separating churn ratio from all the skill things, because again, the point of every game with these systems is to keep you engaged for the longest time.
Moreover, we can even change the objective function to other core game metrics of interest, such as playtime, retention, or spending. EOMM allows one to easily plug in different types of predictive models to achieve the optimization. End quote. Further down, and much more relevant for a...
So what they are saying here is also this model can tell you what you need to do to make people spend more, which is probably just, pay to win type of shit. And, retention versus all of those things. Interesting.
Later part of the video, quote, so far we have discussed EOMM in 1 versus 1 game scenarios. This framework also applies to PvP games that involve teams of players, where every component needs to be extended with additional care. The skill model can be simply applied to a team by adding up skills for all team members, end quote. Simplified here, matchmaking used to be a system or mechanism where you played against random other people. Then it became a targeted system where you would play against people of your same relative skill level. And more
Yeah.
recently, it has become a system that is intentionally flexible so as to increase relative player spending and retention.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can see why that's a bit of a problem.
That was the original goal. Again, MMR's original goal was exactly that.
Before going further, today's video is brought to you by Incogni.
Wow.
Incogni is, and not just in the archives of companies you know about or signed up for on purpose, but other data firms take any action at all workers, and it's quickly and easily removed. After that, sit back and just watch them work. People have so much information online that 60% off an annual subscription to Incogni. Again, link down below and back on task. As bad as that is, it's honestly nothing compared to some of the tactics available, so let's make a pivot here and jump over to this. This is a patent held by Activision Blizzard titled System and Method for Driving Microtransactions in Multiplayer Video Games. And all the way down on page 13, quote,
It's so crazy, by the way, that they patent this shit. That's what blows my mind, that they actually patent this stuff.
according to an aspect of the invention, microtransaction engine may arrange matches to influence game-related purchases. And further down,
Yeah, we know this. This happens in every game. Companies have different patents for it. But this is the situation where, for example, in Overwatch, you're playing Moira, and your opponent is a Moira with the legendary skin that costs the most and looks the best. This is one of those things. This involves the classic tales about bots with the most expensive pay-to-win armor standing in town, the most popular places in game, so people just look at it because that also incentivizes you to spend money and things like that. You know what I think the great filter is going to be for humanity? I think there's going to be two great filters. One is going to be when we actually colonize the first other planet. Because there's no fucking way we don't start the war with that colony after a period of time. Listen, we can't already deal with us humans on this world being different. But when you send people to different planet with different gravity and different everything, in 2 generations they're not even gonna probably look like humans. And that's how I think we nuke each other's worlds, and that's gonna be great. And the other one is that, well, the more we learn about this, I said this a long time ago, but if you want to be unhappy, start actually, reading psychology books and whatnot, and then you quickly understand that everything's a manipulation and so on. I don't think humans can survive a meta-level analysis of themselves and how we function. Because there are so many things that we can predict about humanity so easily because it's just ingrained in ourselves. For example, these behaviors that we exhibit here with pay to win and whatnot, something shiny is put in front of you. I don't think it's good for humanity to be analyzing itself on a meta level.
for example, microtransaction engine may match a more expert/marquee or otherwise influential player, e.g. clan leader, with a junior player to encourage the junior player to make game-related purchases. A junior player may wish to emulate a marquee player by obtaining weapons or other items used by the marquee player.
Yeah, this is also a common one. This is the simple one, like, oh, look at this guy, he's so cool, he's pounding everyone. Well, look at his weapon, it looks so good, I want to be like him. And the fastest way to be like him is by buying that microtransaction weapon. Or in situations where people can buy power, but that power is not actually pay to win, but you can still buy it, and it affects your gameplay. And you're matched against someone who has spend and has things that you just in general don't have. And then you see them perform good with stuff that you don't have. And considering we humans are arrogant shits, the obvious thing that you are thinking is, well, I'm just not performing that good because that guy has better items than me. Even though the items obviously do not make the difference in this situation. There you go. And in pay to win situations, the same thing. Only then it's pay to win.
Other types of pairings and or other groupings of players may be used as well. That is a very clear indication of what is happening. But for anyone who wants me to spell it out for them, The game can match players together, expert and junior, with the sole intention of causing those with a lower relative skill level to buy microtransactions, thereby totally destroying the integrity of a skill-based hierarchy, because fairness of competition is no longer the primary directive. You may subjectively believe that the choices you make in any given match somehow matter, but you also might just be someone with an adequate skill level to where you and your teammates combined, as per the research from Electronic Arts data, are very likely going to lose that particular match, simply as a mechanism to spur one of your teammates to buy loot boxes, or to serve as cannon fodder, as per the discussion with Mark Rubin, for opponents who are likely to quit if they lose another match. As bad as all of that is, it is nothing compared to our next example here, which yet again comes from Activision Blizzard. This time, it's a patent called Methods and Systems for Incentivizing Team Cooperation in Multiplayer Gaming Environments, which sounds innocent enough until...
Is this like pings and shit? I have never heard about this.
Until you read page 7 of the text portion and find this. Quote, Figure B illustrates a...
Isn't that page 22?
A table providing an exemplary list of parameters of a gameplay session that are modified based on a player's skill level and the corresponding experience for players of different skill levels. For example, in a first shooter gaming environment, when a first player aims his weapon at a target, a parameter defining the tolerance for how accurate the player's aim must be to hit the target is modified based on the acquired skill level of the player.
I know this. Yeah, I have heard about this. I haven't heard about the name, but yeah, I have heard about this. Yes. It literally will make you miss shots so you can get killed by someone. And we have Magic players in the fucking thousands saying, oh no, Magic the Gathering Arena is not rigged. No person can see probabilities better than other ones. And, you know, things like that. You're just a tinfoil hatter. God, I hate life so much.
The computer assigns the tolerance for how accurate the player's aim must be to hit the target differently based on the skill level of the first player. A player having a higher skill level will be assigned a lower...
By the way, I just want to mention this. This only works in Call of Duty. This is literally a Call of Duty thing. That's why fast games are different. This would never work in Counter-Strike, for example. Or Valorant, even for that example. Because the moment they implement something like this in Counter-Strike or Valorant, it's just over. Because you know, as a Counter-Strike or Valorant player, that your bullet is gonna go exactly in X position if you are crouching, sitting, just standing still. It can never go arbitrarily off target. But in Call of Duty, where everyone's sprinting and no one is actually aiming, this is a thing that they can implement and no one will notice.
Tolerance parameter, and therefore...
Because it's really hard to notice that, honestly, when you're running.
Or will have to be more accurate in aiming in order to hit the target. A player having a lower skill level be assigned a higher tolerance parameter, and therefore could be less accurate in aiming in order to hit the target. As shown, column 310 of table 1 lists modifiable parameters such as degree of accuracy required to hit a target. Column 312 lists the experience of a player having a high skill level, which may be high degree of accuracy required. Column 314 lists experience of a player having a medium skill level, which may be medium degree of accuracy required. And column 316 lists the experience of a player having a low skill level, which may be low degree of accuracy.
And by the way, all of this gets even more muddied by console players playing Call of Duty and using a controller and being like, auto-aim doesn't do anything. I actually play better without it on. Then why do you have it on? Oh, wow. Strange, huh?
Required. End quote. Yeah, see, haha. Scrolling up to table 1, we can see what kinds of systems the game will change, with big air quotes there, based on the subjective skill level of a player, which include, but are not limited to, degree of accuracy required to hit the target, likelihood of being targeted by an enemy, which means it can kill you whenever it wants to, difficulty of an in-game puzzle.
I love this because when I look at this, this is literally this is literally the finishing university tier of BS, by the way. You put in a table because you can put in a table, not because it's actually useful. Because look at this. If you're a high skill player, your degree of hitting an opponent is gonna be required high. if you're low, it's gonna be low, and you make a table for this just because you can. It's beautiful.
Bonus chance of finding powerful treasure, number of challenging enemies in a single encounter, gold earned multiplier, and friendly fire damage amount to teammates. On top of this, column 318 lists equipment selection or accuracy of enemy attacks, which can be modified so that enemy attacks never miss the player, and further clarifies that these systems can be changed in a multitude of ways based on the subjectively determined skill level of a player so that they will play for a longer period of time or purchase more in-game items. Let's put everything together now. Multiplayer competitive games no longer exist in a state of meritocracy. They match players based on engagement above all else, and as per the statements of Mark Rubin, a multi-decade gaming industry executive at different companies who worked on numerous AAA FPS titles, including Call of Duty, the AI will give out wins if it thinks you might be on the verge of quitting. Multiplayer games in general can modify almost any aspect of the core gameplay loop, including how accurate you are, how many enemies target you, or what level of rewards you can get.
And also, if there's the situation where you need one win to rank up to a different rank or something like that, it can actually keep you in an aggressive 50% win rate situation because, well, if you need one game to rank up, you're playing that game, chances are, and then you lose, and now you need 2 games, but, you know, you can't end on a loss, right? So you play that one game, you win again, then you play it again, a loss again. Well, you can't quit now because it's only 2 games, right? You win, and so it repeats because these things are the highest retention rate situations in gaming. When you are about to achieve something, when you're about to rank up, when you're about to get enough money to buy some kind of item that you're saving up for. All of these things are moments when people are going to press Q again very fast. So those are also the moments where you're going to get manipulated the most.
The explicit goal of making you 1, stay online, and 2, purchase more microtransactions, which reverses the paradigm of player choice, culminating in an industry where you no longer play games. Games play you. The same way I can give you a series of questions that seem like choices and force you to end up with a certain particular number, modern video games can give you a series of matches that keep you in the exact same ranked bracket for whatever game it is. They do this to maintain paying customers, they do it to maximize in-game session time, and they can restructure the very fabric of the game itself on a whim to push you in whatever direction.
Yeah, it sounded like the point I just made for a second, but no, I think this is different.
Is most valuable to them. You aren't playing games with consistent rules. You are playing inside a virtual world that changes itself in order to control outcomes. And they have perfected that type of system for years at the expense of all players involved, while most of them don't even know what's happening in the first place. Think about it. For every winner, there's a loser. And if an AI determines that you are, let's say, less likely to quit, or you're just a more patient than average player, I don't know, like you're mature and grown up and patient, it can therefore match you with a team and against a team as well, where the outcome is predetermined based on relative skill, which is a perfect example of the game playing you. Round start, you feel good, it's a fresh match, anything can happen. But in reality, that's just not true, because the game put you there to lose so that someone else on the other team would stay online longer.
Yep. Again, this happens so much, especially in Arena. Magic the Gathering Arena. You're on a win streak, and then what happens? You lose against someone who's playing 100 cards. You have 2 lands you have been bricking for 6 turns in a row, while your opponent is literally godliking it. And then you lose. And that's a forced loss, because that guy with a 100 card deck has not won in like 5 games, and then they now need a free pass, but you have won too much, and now you need to be taken down a notch.
That is the reality of online games. Anyway, I thought it was a really interesting topic and worthy of a video, but that's it. If you want to support the channel, check out the links.
Great stuff. Anyway, that was Upper Echelon, 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.